first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello everyone, this is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you for joining us. We are live streaming here from Fox 12 Oregon every weekday starting at 1 p.m. Going throughout the afternoon, we get to have longer form conversations about a lot of different things. Today, we're going to be talking about aviation safety, something that's certainly on the mind of everyone. We've all seen some of the airline incidents, unfortunately some tragic, that have been happening here over the last several months, particularly maybe even in this last month. And we wanted to find out if this is something that's unprecedented. Is there more that's happening that we're not used to, or is this just coincidental that we're seeing these incidents happen more? They're being more public with them. We want to find out a lot of that, and that's why we went to an aviation expert, a professor from MSU Denver in Aerospace. And so we talked to Kevin Kuhlman about this just to get an idea of, is this spate of accidents, like I said, out of the ordinary? And what should we know? Is this something that everybody should be concerned with? And we go from there. So thankfully, he is the expert who answers some of those questions. Let's run that.
Well, the general reality is that air safety in the United States is very, very safe, and has been for quite some time, and is a world standard for safety, even though it doesn't seem like it because of all the incidents that have happened in such a short time span. Although it's bad enough that there were two commercial carrier accidents, with one involving the military. That's bad enough because we've gone a long period without commercial operations having fatalities. But in terms of the general aviation, what happened today in Arizona, what happened in Pennsylvania, those types of operations highly outnumber commercial operations. And because of that, their safety record is not the same as comparing it to the commercial operations. Because they have so many operations, the numbers start to add up. The vast majority of fatalities in aviation occur in the general aviation side, which a lot of times that also includes the business aviation. And those, through a typical year, on average, they've been going down since the early 2000s. But on a typical year, you could have between 1,400 and 1,800 general aviation accidents, not all involving fatalities, of course, but the average number of fatalities would be somewhere between 200 and 300 fatalities on the general aviation side. Whereas in the commercial side, you can see we went many years with 0 fatalities. And now, fortunately, one of the commercial accidents did not result in fatalities, but obviously the other one had 100% fatalities. So that is absolutely tragic. And so are some of the accidents, and specifically fatalities, that do occur in general aviation. But when you compare us to other countries and other parts of the world, we are a gold standard, and we don't have necessarily an increased safety risk. We just have an increased focus on safety.
So is it really more, even though, say, we have these two commercial incidents, highly public, the tragic one in Washington, D.C., and then just recently the one in Toronto. So despite those two being so public, that isn't something you're saying that the public should be necessarily alarmed by, or that it's out of the ordinary if you were to count as
it's definitely on the commercial scale out of the ordinary, because we're so used to, we haven't had a major airline have an accident since 2001. We haven't had a regional carrier accident since 2009. So yes, that's plenty of alarm, that I understand why the public feels that way. But again, I would say that their safety records still, if you measure it over longer terms than 2025, then it's still extremely safe statistically.
Is there any concern surrounding air traffic control? And I know that, there's some of the public talk about some layoffs in there, or maybe the right people aren't in there, or people are overworked. When it comes to air traffic control, is there something that the public or the aviation industry should be concerned with along those lines?
In general, no. And I don't, and specifically the most current accident up in Canada, I don't believe that's going to have any bearing on that particular accident, although we can't rule anything out yet. It's still very preliminary. We all, those of us that are following the media, and from what we hear in reports from NTSB, there was an issue in Washington, and there has been a sustained issue in air traffic control of the number of controllers and manning the facilities to the optimal levels. And so that is going to continue to be a focus to correct. I wouldn't say it's off base to talk about the technology. I'm not talking about it on a safety level that it's unsafe, but it certainly could benefit from upgrades and cutting edge technology that's available today in many other more nimble applications than a large government entity like air traffic control and the FAA.
Is this something that you see in use case in other aviation and other countries, I guess, in their aviation industries, or is this something that the U.S. is just behind on?
I wouldn't say I'm an expert in comparing that.
Gotcha.
I don't know if other countries are having the same problems. I know they work much differently than how we work. Our air traffic control in general terms, but in terms of where most the flying public go to, from the U.S. to Europe, or the U.S. over to the Pacific region and Asia, those controllers are all deemed pretty safe. Not that nothing can happen, but those are pretty safe areas where people normally travel from the United States. But there are some smaller countries, some more isolated areas, and certain countries that don't have the safest safety records, not just air traffic control, but also just in general, their safety practices do not compare to the United States. And you can actually go on the website and see basically warnings for different countries saying, be careful if you're going to travel there, because they don't have the same level of safety that we have in the United States.
When it comes down to it here for the United States, for people traveling within the country, you see some of these accidents that have happened, both commercial and some of the private planes. Overall, just to answer this question, is it something the public should be concerned with more than usual when it comes to traveling via airplane?
My initial answer is going to be no. But I do understand why people are concerned. And of course, even if it was just one commercial accident, especially as tragic as what happened in Washington, it's going to start to get a lot of scrutiny. And then all of a sudden, accidents that don't typically get scrutiny are coming out over the media. And I'm not saying that to blame the media. It's just a fact. Once you see one, then anything in that close to that category will pop up in media. If you start going down to the general aviation level, like what happened in Arizona, you're going to be doing a lot of reports because, again, the number of operations in general aviation is far greater than the commercial operations where people are going from major airports, Chicago, Atlanta, Denver, LA, a much higher number of operations.
So statistically speaking, it's still on par with where it would be.
Well, I'm sure 2025, when numbers come out, are going to show they're obviously going to show a spike, but over time, I don't see that we have a systemic problem that's going to persist.
All right. So again, thank you to Kevin for joining us. So just a long discussion there just about that, about airline safety, about aviation safety, and just some of the concerns that maybe people should have. So please feel free to share that segment. You can do so by going to kptv.com, clicking on the Fox 12 Now tab. It'll be on there, or of course on our apps. We're on YouTube as well, so lots of places to find this show and have those conversations. And if there's one that you would like to have or you think that we could have on here, maybe we get an expert, feel free to send me an email, fox12now@kptv.com. That's fox12now@kptv.com. We're here throughout the afternoon, and we're able to do that. And of course, if there's ever breaking news, this is also the place to go in between our other newscasts, one at, starting at 1 p.m., going to 4 p.m. This is really where we're going to have that for you, so we'll bring that. But we've got more coming up this afternoon for the live stream, but we're going to take a break now. Thanks for joining us. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.